Hello, what nuts, Humpty Dump Nuts, and we are not done nuts. It is Sunday, June 16th, Canada, and this is What Chaos. It is unscheduled. We'll toss prize picks a shout. It's presented by them if they want, if anybody wants. Really, it's presented, Pete, by the fact that this thing ain't over, technically, and perhaps, well, literally, but perhaps also, like, for real in our brains. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Before we get into the game stuff, how was the experience in Edmonton? Because I'm very, very happy that you got your Edmonton moment, your Edmonton experience. I know that you were having a great time out there before, even with the Oilers sucking and that the energy being zapped from that fan base. You've kind of become like an Edmonton icon, which I fucking love for you. But I'm just very glad that you got your fucking like Oilers playoff moment in Edmonton before you leave.
I had a mix of I'm so happy for you texts and concerned. Please tell me you also went to this game texts. Like, if you like had to pick one and you picked the one that was the saddest one, that would I was gonna say that would be like so me, but I think it would just be so everyone. That's like a classic, like just my luck kind of thing. But being in the building last night, even though my accommodations were a little more normal than they were in game 3, it was just insane. Every video I took, I knew that it was not going to translate if I posted it because the energy was crazy. And even after they won last night, it was unlike anything I've seen after championships in other cities where they won a Stanley Cup Final game. That is no small feat. That's incredible. However, they trailed 3-1 in the series. They won. They basically hid Florida's victory cigars, and the celebration for that was larger than anything I've ever seen anywhere. But maybe, Pete, just maybe, that's not what the celebration was. It was holy fuck, we're doing this.
That wasn't your run of the mill. We're staying alive. The series is now 3-1 victory. Me and Sean had the conversation on the stream before the game started. What would it take for you to actually believe in the Oilers? Like, what would a win need to look like for you to actually believe that there was some hope that they could be alive in this series? And we both landed on it would need to be a whole lot. A whole lot would have to happen. And a whole lot happened in game 4. It was a breakthrough game in a lot of different areas for the Oilers. So, like, that was basically exactly what they needed to provide some semblance of hope, no matter how deranged or like just whatever you want to call it, like unlikely that hope remains at 3-1. It exists. There's a little bit there.
It exists. I was trying to look up before on my unfavorable Wi-Fi here, and hopefully the video that you're seeing is not the video that we're recording this on. We're trying to do some backup thing so it doesn't look absolutely terrible. I'll even face the camera for a second. I was looking up on my cruddy Wi-Fi here. Was this the most lopsided game of the entire playoffs? It had to have been.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I know it was the most lopsided Cup Final game ever, I believe.
That is the most Oilers thing I've ever heard in my life. I love that. If you were to tell me, hey, on whatever date the most lopsided game in Cup Final history was played, without saying who was in it, my only question would be, did the Oilers win or lose?
Yeah.
They for sure have it in them to do both. Something, by the way, that I didn't know, I was talking to some mutual friends in great hockey minds. I did not know that Chris Knobloch is a win streak guy. Like at the NHL, like everywhere he's gone, he's just a coach who goes on win streaks. His something about the way that I don't know. I don't know a lot about this guy clearly because as Eagle Eye Sean noted, completely puts his lines in a blender last night, which you expect a team down 3-0 to do. Only keeps one line the same, and it scores the first even strength goal of the game. The guy is a freaking savant.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the win streak thing. The thing that kept coming up last night was each of those 4+ game win streaks has got 3 of them under Chris Knobloch on the season, 5 games, 8 games, and 16 games. All 3 of those win streaks have come after they've lost 3 straight games. So, like, he is a win streak guy after a losing streak guy. And I mean, I still don't think that the Panthers are going to lose 4 in a row, but the fact that the Oilers have a tendency of losing 3 straight and then going on a big heater does provide some encouragement. And it does go back to the point that I made this week on the show. Oilers, they're a teabag team. They got to sit in that hot water before the flavor comes out, baby. That was a lot of flavor last night in game 4, but they're in that hot water.
I kept hearing you, like, because I was jumping in and out, tossing an earbud in, maybe pulling up the stream during the game. I kept hearing you say that, and I was like, that's the most incredible expression I've ever heard in my life.
I know
I'm so
I
mad I didn't
stole it.
come up with it.
I didn't come up with it
Oh,
either. I
who?
stole it from the 1987 broadcast from Game 7 of the Oilers Flyers Stanley Cup Final. I told you that. I said that on the show. I said for morale purposes, I went back and I watched the
Oh,
1987.
yes.
And I forget who the CBC broadcast was saying that expression about. But as soon as I heard it, I was like, "Oh, I'm stealing this," and it absolutely applies to the 2024 Oilers.
Well, the flavor is starting to come out. Multi-point games from, I mean, a lot of people last night, but multi-point games from, most importantly, Dylan Holloway. I kid, but that kid's a stud. He's really turning it on. McDavid, Draisaitl, those are the two guys that you really wanted to show up, even though the McDavid, like, when will he show up thing was a little unfair. He was showing up, he wasn't scoring goals, and he's Connor McDavid, so when he's not going off, it looks weird and it looks bad. But Pete, now is in a position where the conversation after the game also was, does McDavid win Conn Smythe no matter what? That's crazy to me because I think that that really should be reserved for goalies who were handed an entire plate of shit during the cup final that, like, in any other situation, their team would have won and their team just left them out to dry. I'm starting to maybe come around on this McDavid thing. He breaks Gretzky's assists record in the postseason last night. He's now up to 32. He's at what, 38 points on the postseason, which is 17 more than anyone on the Panthers. And the Panthers have played more games, haven't they? Because they were 6-6 and 6.
Yeah, they've hit 6 in each. 5. They were 5 in
Oh,
the first round.
5, 6, and 6, and okay, so maybe the same amount because Oilers were 5, 7. Oh, maybe the Oilers have played one more because they were 5,
Yeah.
7, and 6. But anyway, 17 more points than anybody on the Panthers. And I think that Sasha Barkov has been the Panthers' best player this postseason anyway. So if this is to go down and the Panthers are to win the cup, then I think that Barkov would be my Conn Smythe guy anyway. And after that, I would still probably have Forsling ahead of Bob. I feel bad for Bob that his candidacy went from him being maybe a little overrated and getting a little too much love to, like, well, that shit's not happening now. A
I know.
909 save percentage getting Conn Smythe, cool. Like, that's probably that would rank, I would guess, between 5th and 10th in the postseason. You can't give him Conn Smythe if it ends today. So I say all that to say the Oilers' heavy hitters are starting to show up, and McDavid still on the whole has just freaking by far been this postseason's best player.
Oilers played one
Yeah.
extra game for the record.
Yeah. That sounds
Also,
right.
it's crazy that like we're in a position where he, I mean, if he goes off, if the Oilers take this to 7 games and McDavid goes off, we are potentially talking about him setting the all-time points record in a single postseason, which he's 9 away right now, and obviously there is a maximum of 3 more games that can be played. So it's not impossible, but it is crazy to even be having that discussion when he only has 6 goals this entire playoffs. He's only got 6 goals. That's fucking wild. But yeah, that was a dominant McDavid game. That was the game that you can at least say existed in the Stanley Cup Final. Like McDavid went off. I'm glad that we finally got one of those. Um, but yeah, it was a breakthrough game in a lot of different areas. McDavid had his dominant game. You had Draisaitl, Hyman getting a little bit of momentum behind their back. Neither one of those guys looks particularly right, I would say, at this point in time.
Good way of putting
Draisaitl
it.
in particular. Draisaitl just looks totally off. There were
Can I say something with a lot of confidence?
mm, hold on, let me
We're
like
okay, go ahead.
even like a few points in game 4. There were opportunities where Draisaitl 100% would have scored if he was healthy during the regular season at his best. It's one of those things. He's so good of a player where when he has a really good opportunity and he doesn't score on it, you're like, huh, that's a little weird. And he's just had so many of those, especially recently.
I think that at the end of this postseason, when all the stuff comes out, our respect for Leon Draisaitl is going to go through the roof, and that doesn't make you happy right now when you're a fan of the team and you just want your team to be healthy and you want everybody to be playing their best hockey. But you are bang on where there are some moments, especially last night, where it's like, all right, they're pouring it on, they're all feeling themselves, and on like even on, like on the power play, just some like a weird pass or not shooting it where he normally would, and he's definitely playing through something, if not some things, but he got going a little bit. I would still say that we have not gotten our Draisaitl game. And by the way, he's done things hurt in his career. Like he's gone
Oh
like the
yeah.
hell off when he's been hurt. So that's another like thing where in the court of public opinion, he gets a little screwed because there are points this postseason where you say, so they're just not going to give Leon Draisaitl line mates. That's not an excuse for Leon Draisaitl because he's Leon Draisaitl and he'd be any other team or most other teams' best player. He's just that good that he typically doesn't need line mates. I think that Knobloch's doing the right thing now, though, giving him Ryan Nugent Hopkins. I love what Henrique and Brown are doing together. So, I mean, maybe they're in business. Maybe they found some good sort of combination. There are a lot of, though, clubs still left in the Oilers' bag, though. And again, they could lose in 5 easy, and then this is freaking over. So all this is a moot point. But as we're talking ourselves into this potentially being a series, the easy ones are what if the power play gets going, which at this point I may just not be counting on because I am just endlessly impressed by the Panthers penalty kill. Obviously, the Oilers penalty kill has been incredible too, but the Oilers holding the Panthers to 1 for 13 on the power play this round. Panthers holding the Oilers to 1 for 16 this round. So you are looking at PP clips of like 6% and 7% in the Stanley Cup Final, which is outrageous. The Oilers, I believe, are leading the special teams battle 2-1. And it's because I'm trying to get this to catch on. No one finds it funny. I think it's hilarious. They're PK merchants. They
Yeah.
just,
I did
they
laugh when
just,
you said that last night.
okay. I mean, I said it like
Honestly,
400 times. So thank you.
their PK probably had more opportunities than their power play did last night.
No
And
joke.
the one breakthrough that they did have on the power play was a 5-on-3.
Mhm.
So it was a 2-minute 5-on-3, and I believe they scored at like the very end of it. So it was like they
Yes. They,
reluctantly scored on the 5-on-3. But yeah, the power play could definitely get going. Um, it, it's crazy. Like, and you also have to point out that game 4, where you also maybe get a little bit of momentum, a little bit of encouragement. Maybe it doesn't carry over to game 5, but the Panthers were fucking assholes in game 4, and they took so many penalties, so many like cheap plays. And I know that we've done a little bit of talk about like is the Panthers being a dirty team? Is that overblown? They turned into shitheads in game 4, maybe just with the way that things were going and how badly it was piling up against them. But like Bennett and Kachuk going after McDavid on that sequence was like, okay, they are who we thought they were, or who people are alleging them to be in that period.
Yeah, Kachuk in the second period especially was Tony Montana walking out of the restaurant, basically being carried out of the restaurant, doing the like say goodnight to the bad, like you need people
Yeah.
like me. Like, so all right, say goodnight to the bad guy who's like this was coming at some point. I
And
thought it
you
was
love the
coming.
way that McDavid responded to it because he just laughed right in Kachuk's face. I don't know if you saw the clip of that, the replay of that. Kachuk delivered like 4 forearm shivers to the back of McDavid's head. McDavid got up. He still was going after him. Bennett came over too. And McDavid was just laughing right in his face. And I think that's exactly what you need when the Panthers turn into that kind of team. You just show that you're not getting rattled by them. And you look at the scoreboard and you're like, we're kicking your ass. Go fucking cry about it.
Didn't that happen? Something like that happened, I think, in the 2013 Eastern Conference Final in game 1 where like I think like Crosby was like trying to lash out at Chara and get in his face or whatever. And
Chara just
Chara was
held him full arm's length and was just laughing at him.
that was it, right. And Chara was like, "Oh my god, the series is over."
Yeah.
And it was. I'm not saying that it's over, but the talents of the Oilers are at long last frustrating the Panthers. And maybe like there's a million reasons the Panthers could have been mad last night. They could have just been like, we really fucking wanted to win the state. Like the cup was in the building. We really wanted to fucking win. It's not frustration that we don't know what to do with these guys because we've been able to handle pushes from them, particularly in game 1 and kind of in the third period of game 3. But like the more and more I think about that third period of game 3, I'm like, fuck, that was all very, very, very realistic. And like that really could have happened. And right now it could be 2-2, but whatever. It's 3-1. The other club that I'll say, so like the Oilers power play hasn't gone off yet. I don't know if I put yet on there though, because as I said, the Panthers penalty kill is just in such a groove. If they were any better, they would be the Oilers penalty kill. These are just the two best penalty kills going right now. Hyman hasn't totally broken out yet. But the big one to me is what if in game 5 they chase Bob again? What if
Yeah.
you have like 2 back-to-back Oilers pour it on and we have some of the I know Sean was saying at the beginning of the series like what if the Oilers' best players are like, it's just our time and we're just going to go off and we're going to score a million goals? What if you get back-to-back games of that where Bob has been chased and now this is almost, I'm going to make another Bruins reference. This is almost like 2011 Bruins-esque where it's like, you're really going to bring that mother bleeper into our building again? Good freaking luck, man. If they can get to Bob in game 5, and then he's got to come back to Rogers for game 6. Oh man, like the atmosphere that I saw last night was the craziest Canadian atmosphere I've seen. Certainly, I can't imagine what it would be like if there is inertia and momentum on Edmonton's side, and the goalie that we're talking about in this series continues to not be Stu Skinner, who, if there's winners and losers of last night's game, biggest loser, Stu Skinner, because he was fucking awesome in that game and no one's going to talk about it. The
Well, I was
Panthers
going to
did.
talk about it. I was going to say this was finally the game that you got where Stu Skinner was objectively better than Sergei Bobrovsky. Like I don't
Yeah,
think that Stu's been a problem for most of this series. Bob has been a problem, like endearing in like in a good way. He's been a problem for the Oilers. Stu Skinner was a problem for the Panthers last night, and it's easy to write that off as like, okay, the score could have been 8-3 and the Oilers still would have won. But like he saved 2-3 goals above what you would expect. I haven't looked at the actual like metric on
that
that
sounds
and what
right.
some of the sites would have, but like he made a couple of saves that you wouldn't expect Stu Skinner to make. And I was literally making that point on the stream last night. I was like, Stu doesn't make enough of those saves. Like he can be very solid and he can be a good goalie for you, but very rarely will he make a save that you don't expect him to make. And he made a few of those last night, and he was really good. And that's an encouraging sign. The only problem with Stu and with Bob, I would say, for both of those guys, is that you can't hold on to a single game performance too much, because it could flip on its head the very next game. Like those guys have that to their game where there's that unpredictability.
We didn't talk enough. I was also just smiling. So I've talked about hockey with so many people the last few days, and I have just like noticed, I'm like, man, but when what Pete and I have, I don't know if it's better or worse, but it's just fucking different. And I just fucking love talking hockey with you. But we didn't talk enough about, in all of the chaotic Stanley Cup Final matchups, which as the postseason progressed, it was pretty easy, so we won't give ourselves credit, to be like, oh, the final we want is Florida and Edmonton. That shit will be crazy. We didn't talk about the fact that the most chaotic goaltending matchup remaining was Stu versus Bob. Because Bob is like a low-key, sneaky, whatever, chaotic goalie. I think that Pete, that like the casual hockey fan sees the Vezinas, sees the sweep of the Lightning in 2019, and they're like, oh yeah, Bob is that guy. Which, like, he is that guy, but he's not set it and forget it. You
Oh,
walk away and
100%.
you come back with the pizza and the whole room can be on fire. And then Stu is Stu and we love him and all of that is said endearingly. But I feel like you and Sean have been a lot more perceptive with foresight in how goaltending shit will play out. I just didn't give any thought to the fact that, like, oh man, these are two goalies that can either be a problem, endearing, or a problem, derogatory, italics, bold, underlined.
Yeah, and in the only point that I made, like in terms of a separating factor there, is that Bob being a problem endearing is way more dominant than Stu being a problem endearing. His ceiling is way higher in terms of that. And we saw that in game one. He was a fucking problem. And then in game three, he was a problem in the third period. And
Which is,
and like he was basically the reason that the Oilers did not tie the game there in the third period of game three.
yeah. Goddamn McLeod. Yeah, that was a great save. It is kind of unfair to Stu though, because Stu could be like, "Oh yeah, it's so tough playing behind Gus Forsling," and I don't think his player's that great, but like Aaron Ekblad, like he's got some like guys playing in front of him. Although,
Aaron Ekblad had a real holy shit moment last night. I don't know if you caught it. The Draisaitl assist to Holloway, like he just got caught so bad on the entry from Draisaitl, and then Forsling had to scramble, and Draisaitl hit Holloway on the break. Like those guys looked real rough on that
yeah,
sequence, which is wild because that's been their steady eddies.
this has been Aaron Ekblad's, and I say this based on the second round and the Stanley Cup Final. I feel like Aaron Ekblad is breaking out as being not that good.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you know that he's being paired with Gus Forsling. Like Forsling is the guy. I don't think anybody who knows puck looks at Florida's defense and is like, "Oh yeah, Ekblad is like expendable beyond like just being the captain of this team. Forsling is the guy."
He's so good. He's unbelievable. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson getting into the shit. Didn't really see that happening, but you brought that up last night. You're
I did
like, since
not.
when does Oliver
I did
Ekman-Larsson do
not.
this? Unfamiliar
Since
with your
when?
game, apparently, 100 years
Since
into your
when is
career.
OEL a shit stirrer? He has become a shit stirrer in the series, which is a storyline that absolutely did not see coming. Also, like while we're talking about defensemen, who's like shit we did not see coming, Darnell Nurse with a goal last night. Breakthrough Darnell. Holy moly. I don't know if you saw the clip, by the way. Sarah Nurse at the game going bonkers when Darnell hit the back of the net.
So I did not see that, but that's what's frustrated me a lot with the Darnell Nurse experience. 100%. The story of Darnell Nurse is he's a good player who has an inexplicable contract based probably on the fact that he was a high draft pick by a team that very badly needed defensemen.
I would also say also based on the fact that the Oilers were desperate to have the guy, and they were like, well, this might be it, so let's give him the guy contract. If
Right.
they had the guy on their team, there's no way that Darnell Nurse gets that contract. I think there's a more realistic sense of what the guy looks like, and it's not Darnell Nurse, and I don't think that he gets that contract.
But when he was bad this postseason, I was like, I know he can't be a bad player because of like pedigree and family. Like I'm like he's like his family is good at like this is not what this fucking guy is. I refuse to accept that Darnell Nurse is a bad hockey player, and there were arguments that it could have been that he had a bad defensive partner. I forget who he was playing with at the time, but wouldn't you know it, that other guy has still made a few mistakes. I still watch CC, and I'm like, man, this is a guy who's been put in an unfair situation because he truly is not a good hockey player. And expectations and whatever. I mean, I think he was a first round pick, I believe as well. But something has kept him around past his expiration date. And that's very insulting to say, but he's not a good player.
He's a chaos god. I love him. I love those players. I don't want him on my team, but man, he is fun to watch for better and for worse.
You want him on your like pet team though. I got a lot more, by the way, last night. How come only one of you came? Why didn't all three of you come? Where's Pete? Et cetera, et cetera. A lot of Sean compliments. A lot of the people who have said nice things about our show clearly listen to our show, which is very nice because you don't always get that. You get like
love your stuff, and you're like, what stuff?
Love your, you know what? It's the Tim Heidecker when he's in his like sexist character, and he says, "No, I love Lady Gaga. I think what she's doing is important."
Yeah,
shit like that. Hey,
love
you know what? What you guys do is really the game needs stuff like that. Like what? Like 2 more white people? Oh, cool. Yeah, cool. Yeah. We're really breaking a lot of new ground here. Thanks. It must be stunning. Did see last night an amazing Zach Hyman jersey with it said Hyman in Hebrew.
Mm-hmm.
Pointed out to me by a friend of me, Emily Benjamin, and she was like, "That jersey that says Hyman in Hebrew." So I took a picture, and she was like, "You're gonna be really excited about that." And you probably didn't even know that was in Hebrew. I was like, "Shut up! It's my favorite thing." I saw a cool 18 jersey, amazing. Yeah, hopefully this. I mean, if this comes back for 6, I'm gonna be very, 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 very happy. We'll have another live stream for Game 5. I would have a terrible time if that's how it ended. Because if this goes back 6, there's already, by the way, all 3 of us have been requested in Edmonton.
Well, I don't know if you
6.
I don't know if you caught this part of the stream, but I guaranteed that we would be in Florida for Game 7 if it goes to Game 7. So
that I like.
Yeah, I will absolutely go to Florida for Game 7 if it goes that far.
I saw our guys Roy and Dave. I do feel bad. I felt bad for them. I checked in when it was like 1,000,000-1 after Bob had been chased, and they were like, really not a great defensive game for these guys. And I was like, fuck, even if it's just like a one-off, I'm like, fuck, they had to come from Florida. But also, those guys know puck. They're a couple of hockey dorks. I bet once the disappointment washes off, they're gonna be like, yo, that was fucking crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that was a crazy game, and this has been a crazy series, and I mentioned it last night. Like the book on each one of these games individually has been so different. And normally when you get to like this point in a series, you got a lot of games blending together and blurring together, and it's hard to separate what happened in what particular game. There's none of that in this series because all of the games are so like they exist on their own, and it's crazy. It's been a roller coaster ride, and the fact that it's 3-1 seems a little bit not like an injustice, but it seems a little surprising based off of kind of the swings that you've had in this series. It's been a crazy series. And yeah, I think that, for those guys, the Florida guys, obviously you go into that building that night and you have like, damn, I might get to watch my favorite team win its first Stanley Cup tonight. Like that might happen tonight. And then that game happens. It's hard not to be absolutely demoralized by that, even when you hold the 3-1 series lead, even when you still feel very confident in your team. And I do wonder like how much of that comes off of the Panthers too, where it's like there is something to be said about a team chunking their first clinching opportunity, because you see it happen so often where I don't know if it's something that gets in between the ears where they're like, we can do it tonight, boys. Like we can realize this dream tonight. You see a lot of teams flat or nervous or whatever you want to call it in their first clinching opportunity for the cup. I mean, even with the Celtics in Dallas, like the NBA finals and Stanley Cup finals are following the exact same script right now. It's insane, down to game 4 being a insane blowout in favor of the team that's been getting waxed for the previous 3 games. It's uncanny, the things that are lining up there. But yeah, I do wonder how much of that comes off of Florida as the team that's like, we can realize a dream tonight, and then you get absolutely fucking smoked. And then on the other side of that too, you have like, you're never going to find a more desperate team than the team that's down 3-0 and trying to keep their season alive.
And a team that's used to rattling off multiple wins. Maybe. I mean, if you think I believe, talk to the people that are probably I was up, I couldn't sleep because people were still driving around honking their horns, and like there's emergency vehicles because I'm sure everybody is just having the absolute time of their life. I stopped by, shout out Greta. Um,
Van
I
Fleet,
stopped by. What's that?
Van Fleet.
I did see somebody at Greta wearing a Greta Van Fleet shirt, and I was like, I can't say bad form because I'm a guest here, but kind of bad form. Whatever. Those are coolish guys. No, they're cool guys. I was at Greta to do Oilers Nation stuff, and man, that place, whole internet, ton up, to quote Chet Hayes. Crazy. I'm like, what happens? What happens if they win another game? And well, God forbid, truly, God forbid, what if they won the fucking cup? Because if they were partying the way that they were last night on what even day was it? Oh, it was a Saturday night, so I guess it's kind of excusable. But I'll tell you what, there is belief throughout this beautiful town, and it's been an amazing time. Maybe we come back. I do like this Florida idea. Maybe we start looking at some refundable or even non-refundable. We can put our money where our mouth is, show how much we really believe. Accommodations.
That would be very us, is to make an incredibly irresponsible financial decision that goes
Hey,
nowhere.
you're looking at someone who has dragged out this podcast, so I will not have time to go back to the team store before I leave for my flight. This is a
You gotta get the
smart
white.
man.
You gotta get the white Skinner jersey, man. You gotta do it.
So the thing is, I have a hookup who can get me a nice discount, and I don't want to be like, I've like become friends with this person. I don't
You wanna go
want to
back
be
for
like,
seconds.
can you? And he has said, he's been like, dude, I know that you want to go back there and get more shit. Just fucking tell me, I'll meet you and we could do it. I'm like, no, please, come on. I have enough stuff. And every other second that I haven't been talking to this wonderful person, I've been like, fuck, what if I got like, what if I got a Connor Brown? What if I got a,
Just give me
ah,
Can you put the Stanley Cup patch on the James Neal jersey,
Yeah.
please? It'll be funny.
Yeah. Like, Sean really likes McDavid. What if I get like Devin? What if I get Devin, Calvin Pickard? Teach him puck. Really get him in there. There's got
Somebody
the
said last night that if you won the 50-50 raffle, that you would spend all of the money renaming the Oilers team store the David Bean Oilers team store. That would be so fucking funny.
oh my god, I
Buying
said
the
this.
naming rights to the team store.
If I die tragically, that is how I want like my name to carry on. Just like apply or just like I don't know,
The
have a
David Bean
section.
Memorial Oilers Pro Shop.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. The David
Amazing.
Bean Memorial Oilers Pro Shop presented by Prize Picks Daily Fantasy Sports Made Easy.
Uh,
Incredible.
I still feel like the Panthers win this series. I don't see the sustainability of this, both from Edmonton's side and from Florida's side. Edmonton, I thought, was too good and too annoying to be swept, but I also think that they are too irresponsible and too childish to rip off 4 straight against this Panthers team, who I trust to rebound. But I'm very, very glad that, number one, it's not a sweep, because sweeps are very bad for business. And number two, that it is that the game 4 win was so emphatic and breakthrough, that now we get to have this conversation, even if it is short lived, even if it ages extremely poorly, even if we are made to look like fools by believing in this team based off a 1 game sample. I'm glad that the conversation has been provoked and elicited, because this season deserves more than a finale that's 4 games, one-sided, lopsided, and fuck, I'm not ready for this season to end. So I'm just very glad that the Oilers put up a fight and made it look as strong as it did.
We're on series watch, meaning we're on do we have a series
Don't let
talk.
them win game
Watch.
5. Don't let them
Don't
win
let him
game
win.
5.
I'll just say first period of game 5. In the first period of game 5, people will be declaring it a series. I think. Maybe. Like what if they go up 2-0 in the first period? And we know the 2-0 lead doesn't fucking matter to any team, especially the Oilers, but there can be a point in game 5 where people are like, "Oh no, like this definitely isn't done." I think that right now people rightfully think it probably is done. Probably, but I'm not giving up. I'm not letting go of it. And yeah, don't let him win game 5. Don't let him light up Bob again in game 5, because then there becomes the whole thing. And we know that once you get to Bob, Bob can be done and he can kind of tap out and just, or I could just say, once you get to Bob, he becomes extremely human and you could beat a human goalie in the playoffs. That happens all the time. So
Yeah.
don't let that happen. I'm excited. We'll talk on We'll talk tomorrow. We'll have our normal episode, but we'll also have our live stream on Tuesday night. On Monday night, I was telling the story last night of the first time we met Bob on the elevator. And I said we were going to an Oilers game in Vegas, and we saw Bob on the elevator. And Pete and I looked at each other, although as though like Jennifer Lopez was on the elevator. And we were like, oh my
Honestly, if
God.
Jennifer Lopez was on that elevator, I would be less excited than if Bob Stauffer was on the elevator. I'm dead
Like,
serious
excuse me,
about
miss,
that.
is that Bob Stauffer over there?
Jennifer Lopez is washed. Bob Stauffer is in his prime.
That divorce, they're not divorced yet, so let's not speak
J-Lo's
ill
washed.
of a man's family. She attended. Ben Affleck had a thing for his daughter, and
Separate
Jen and her kids went.
separate of my feelings for Ben Affleck. I'm J-Lo's washed.
Anyway, I was like, we saw Bob, and it was like we were seeing whoever, blah blah. And Bob said, "DJ, what are you doing Monday?" I was like, "I'm gonna be back in Boston." He was like, "Do you want to come on Oilers now?" I was like, "Oh my god, buddy." I was like, "Do you know what it meant to us when Pete was on Oilers now?" And he was like, "Yes, because he talked about it." I didn't hear this hit, but he was like, "Yes, because the whole time he was on, he just talked about how important it was that he was on it and that like it was very good for him personally." I was like, "Yeah, that's how he should feel and how we kind of feel about this whole thing. You guys really do matter a lot to us."
Yeah, I mean, and I wanted to make it very clear because as we've mentioned before, like the energy of us like being like Bob, we love you in that elevator was him being a little bit like, is this are you pranking me? Are you is this like an ambush or something? He had a little bit of his defenses up, and I just wanted to make sure that he knows and always knows that like it is genuine. I fucking love Bob and I fucking love Gene and I love the whole operation, and nothing fake about it. There's no fucking screen. It is pure love, and I was very happy to be on Oilers Now, and I'm extremely happy that you get to do it too.
So he was I'm not telling tales out of school, I hope. I think he was very excited that you liked him because he knew you from you were doing hits with we were doing like some stand-ups with Frank
Yeah.
Saravalli, who is a good friend of his, and I think he said like you were like the funny one and like do it like the fun guy and doing like the cool stuff or whatever. So I imagine when if he thought for a second like, oh, this guy's fucking with me, am I not cool? He was probably devastated because he's
Oh
like,
no,
this is the cool guy, and oh no, I mean,
I fucking
he
love Bob.
learned he learned, as have all those Edmonton guys. They've learned very quick. Not a bit. Not a joke.
No.
Not nothing. Love them so much.
So the thing that I'm like learning about myself as I get a little bit older is that no matter what a person's age is, what a person's vibe is, no matter what the thing is about a certain person, like if they are passionate about what they do in the game of hockey, and if they just like love the experience of being involved in the hockey world, I will respect and fucking love that person. And it's just there's so many of those people in Edmonton, and some of them in the Edmonton media I don't love. We can probably guess who some of those are, but like Bob is a hockey guy and he loves being in the hockey world, and I love him so much.
Yeah, it's incredible. Got to I'm so glad that for all of our sakes, I'm so glad that I did this trip. Doing it solo was a little weird because I haven't done a solo work trip since I was a beat writer, I think. And even then, you're with your beat. So like
Yeah.
you have your regulars you go out with all the time. But this was just like a never ending, I love this person. I've always wanted to meet this person kind of thing. And like you've done a cup final before. Usually it's like a bunch of exhausted people who are still really fucking pumped to be like, yo, like we're at the cup final. That's pretty fucking rad. So I
Mhm.
love it. I love hockey. I love you, Sean. I love you as well. I'm sorry that due to the remote nature of this and the fact that it's going to take forever for me to upload my video, that we didn't pick your brain more. But I will talk to you both tomorrow. Love you so much, boys.
Safe travels coming back. We for Panthers fans who might be a little annoyed at the Oilers slant here, tune in to Monday's episode. We'll cover the Panthers angle a little bit more, and yeah, I mean,
We'll get a Panthers person. Whatever. I saw
yeah,
Goldie. I talked to Goldie.
how'd
Yeah,
that go?
he was good. You wouldn't leave me alone. He was like, "Oh my god, like when am I coming back on?" You know how he is.
Yeah, that he definitely was begging to come back on for sure.
No,
Uh,
I interrupted a conversation he was having, and I was like, "Hi, just to confirm, I'm DJ, and it's very
you were
nice what you
in,
do." And he was
in
like, "Ah, it's very nice what you do." I was like, okay. And I kissed him on the cheek and I walked away.
And then you said, I love your anthems. It's too bad the Rangers aren't still in it.
What are you doing here? They got a guy, he stands in the crowd. It's real cool.
Yeah, the Panthers are going to be
Randy.
okay, I think, but I'm very glad that there's a little bit of doubt. That's all.
Yeah, we just want a series. We just want a series, and who knows? Maybe it turns into something more. I'll be honest, I forgot about Panthers until you were like, "Hey, as for the Panthers, no, shut out them. We love all hockey teams, etc., etc." Talk to you Monday. Bye, everybody.